You lift the cover in early spring expecting a quiet buzz, and instead you find silence. The frames are heavy. Capped honey still shines along the top bars. There may be several kilograms of food left, enough to carry a colony well beyond the last frost. Yet the bees are dead. That scene catches new beekeepers off guard because the first explanation seems impossible. They couldn't have starved. The food was right there. Except sometimes it wasn't right there at all. A winter colony doesn't walk freely through the hive as it does in July. The bees form a tight cluster, warm in the center and cooler at the surface, and that cluster moves only when temperature allows. It usually travels upward and gradually sideways through the comb. During a long cold spell, a small cluster may reach the top of one frame and become separated from untouched honey only a few inches away. To us, that distance looks ridiculous. To chilled bees that would have to break formation and cross cold comb, it can be fatal. So the first job is to stop looking at the total amount of honey and study its position. Find the dead cluster. Is it packed into one narrow area, with many workers buried headfirst in empty cells? Are their abdomens sticking out like little dark plugs? Is there a band of eaten comb directly around them, while sealed honey remains on the next frame or behind a wall of empty cells? That pattern strongly suggests starvation, even in a heavy hive. Experienced beekeepers sometimes call it isolation starvation. The colony had food in the building, but the living cluster couldn't reach it when the weather closed in. I've opened dead colonies where the cruelest detail was a strip of capped honey no wider than a hand, just beyond the last bees. The comb smelled faintly sweet and cold, and when the frame moved, a few dry bodies made that papery rustle against the wax. You remember that sound? A dead cluster pressed tightly into cells is one clue. It isn't a complete verdict. A colony weakened by Varroa can also become too small to reach its stores, so the final event may be starvation while the deeper cause began months earlier. That distinction matters because adding more food next autumn won't repair a mite problem. Look at the size of the cluster. A strong colony entering winter has enough long-lived winter bees to produce heat and replace the workers that die naturally over several months. If only a small patch of bees remains, perhaps no larger than a dinner plate, ask why the population shrank. A colony can have 40 or 50 pounds of honey and still fail because too few healthy bees were left to warm it. Varroa destructor, the parasitic mite commonly called Varroa, does much of its worst damage before winter begins. The mites reproduce in capped brood and feed on developing and adult bees. They also spread and worsen viral infections. The winter workers raised in late summer and early autumn need strong fat bodies and a long lifespan. When those bees are damaged during development, the colony may look busy in September and then fade rapidly in November, December, or January. Search the bottom board and the debris below the brood nest. You may find reddish-brown mites among wax crumbs, though absence of visible mites proves very little. Check the old brood comb under good light. White crystalline deposits on the upper walls of cells can be mite waste, and scattered dead brood may point toward a colony that entered winter under heavy parasite pressure. Bees with shortened abdomens or deformed wings are another warning, although many virus-damaged bees disappear outside the hive before the colony finally collapses. A disappearing population creates a different scene from classic starvation. With severe mite and virus damage, you may find surprisingly few adult bees inside. Honey remains. The queen may be present with a small knot of attendants. There might be abandoned brood because the workforce became too small to cover and feed it. Sometimes neighboring colonies have robbed the weakened hive, leaving ragged wax cappings and chewed cell edges. By the time you open the box, the original evidence has already been disturbed. The calendar helps. A colony that collapses early in autumn after appearing strong should put Varroa high on the list. A colony that survives deep into winter and dies during a hard, prolonged freeze may fit isolation starvation more closely. Still, the two often work together. Mites reduce the cluster. Cold traps the reduced cluster. Honey remains beyond reach. A few dead larvae don't automatically mean a brood disease. Chilled brood can die when the cluster contracts away from the edges. A failing queen may leave a weak, irregular brood pattern before winter, producing too few young workers. If you recorded spotty brood, repeated supersedure attempts, drone brood in worker cells, or a long broodless period during the autumn inspection, queen failure deserves attention. Finding the queen among the dead bees doesn't clear her. She may have stopped laying properly, become poorly mated, or aged before the colony entered winter. An empty queen cell isn't proof that queenlessness killed it. The colony may have replaced her before another problem took over. Was the colony already small in late summer? Was brood irregular? Did the bees have enough time to raise a generation of healthy winter workers? Moisture leaves its own marks. Look under the crown board or inner cover for droplets, mood, dark, damp corners, and water staining. Check whether condensation could drip directly onto the cluster. Bees tolerate cold far better than a wet, draughty cavity. A soaked cluster loses heat quickly, and damp comb encourages mold once the colony becomes too weak to control the hive environment. Still, mold is often an effect of death rather than the original cause. Once the bees stop heating and ventilating the hive, moisture builds, pollen spoils, and gray-green growth spreads across unused comb. Don't blame every moldy frame for killing the colony. Ask whether the dampness was present while the bees were alive or whether it arrived afterward. The entrance gives more clues. A blocked entrance restricts ventilation. Snow is rarely the main problem if air can move, but wet debris, dead bees, or a poorly arranged reducer can close the lower entrance. A safe upper ventilation path may help in damp climates, provided it doesn't create a draught through the cluster. And check the stores themselves. Capped honey is usually the best winter food, yet not every frame is equally useful. Honey stored far outside the cluster may be unreachable. Fermented stores may smell sour or yeasty. Crystallized honey can be harder to use when water is scarce, though it doesn't condemn a colony. Late liquid feeding can also leave excess moisture if the bees don't have enough warm weather to process and ripen the syrup. There is one disease pattern that deserves calm attention. If sealed brood cells are sunken, perforated, greasy-looking, or contain brown remains that draw into a rope when tested, don't reuse or move the comb until an experienced inspector or laboratory has ruled out American foul brood. That disease is persistent and can spread through contaminated equipment and honey. Guessing here is a bad habit. Close the hive, prevent robbing, and follow the local bee health rules. For unclear losses, dead bees may be tested for nosma, tracheal mites, varroa, or viral damage. Colony death often comes from a sequence: poor queen performance, a late mite rise, too few winter bees, then cold weather and inaccessible food. The best investigation begins before death. Keep autumn notes: record colony strength, brood pattern, queen status, hive weight, and actual mite counts. Write down the date and method of every treatment. Treated for mites tells you almost nothing if you don't know whether the treatment worked, whether brood was present, whether temperature suited the product, or whether mites returned through drifting and robbing. Alcohol wash or another validated method gives information a glance cannot. Seeing no mites on adult bees is never enough. Varroa can build quietly under capped brood, then explode late in the season, just as the colony is raising the workers expected to live until spring. When cleaning a dead hive, don't rush to scrape away the evidence. Photograph the cluster before moving frames. Note where the honey sits in relation to the bodies. Look for the queen, brood, fecal staining, chewed cappings, mites, moisture, and signs of disease. Compare the scene with your autumn records. Only then decide what can safely be reused. Honey-filled dead hive removes the easy answer. Winter survival isn't measured by food weight alone. The colony needs healthy winter bees, a functioning queen, controlled varroa, dry shelter, and stores arranged where the cluster can reach them. Honey may still be in the box when spring arrives. What matters is whether a living colony can get to it.